Testing, testing.
Testing, testing. Testing, testing. Testing, testing. Testing, testing.
Good morning and welcome to the Committee of Adjustment hearings for rural panel number 3. We are a city of, I think we're getting feedback. If
Everyone mute the speakers on your laptops. We'll need a- Yeah, there's a better right off.
Apologies for that. We're just sorting out our last technical details here this morning with this new hybrid hearing format. We are a City of Ottawa quasi-judicial tribunal that holds public hearings to consider Planning Act applications, including minor variances to the zoning requirements and consents to sever land. Our hearings are now in person at Ben Franklin Place, 101 Centerpoint Drive. We also enable remote participation by video conferencing for our registered speakers. We are live streaming on YouTube and the video will be archived and available for future viewing by the public. My name is Martin Vervoort. I'll be chairing the hearing today in the absence of our Vice Chair, Bill Hunter, and you can address me by my name or as chair. With me are my fellow panel members, Beth Henderson to my left, Terrence Otto to my immediate right, and Jocelyn Chandler to my far right. The procedure for the hearings will be as follows. Listed on the agenda and appearing on the screen from time to time are the applications we'll hear today. For the sake of efficiency, we may deal with agenda items in a different order. Panel members have reviewed the planning reports and any written submissions in support or in opposition to each of the applications. Today, we'll hear any oral submissions relating to the applications. As part of the statutory public notification requirements, each applicant was required to post a sign on the property in question before the hearing. They also had to confirm in writing that they did so, or they'll need to swear or affirm an oath today that they fulfilled the sign posting requirements. Otherwise, we may have to adjourn or postpone the hearing. The panel may ask for a brief presentation of an application followed by questions for the applicant and city planning staff. We will then hear from members of the public who have registered to speak, and we may also have questions of them. Finally, the applicant who has the burden of proof will have an opportunity to make final comments in reply. Please address your comments to me as the chair, starting with your name and spelling if it is necessary, and your municipal address for the record. All presentations are limited to 5 minutes. Any exceptions will be at my discretion. At the end of the hearing, the panel may either make an oral decision or we may reserve our decision, which means it won't be delivered today. In either case, and within 10 days, the Committee of Adjustment will send the official written decision and reasons for it to all parties, participants, and anyone else who has requested a copy. Does anyone have any questions about the procedure we will be following today? I don't see any questions. So then, all right, we have several applications to hear today, but first we will need to deal with some preliminary and procedural matters. Are there any declarations of interest that any members of the panel have with respect to any items being heard by this panel or either of the other two panels?
I do. Yes. Panel 2, application for severance B00116 at 2059 Artistic Place.
Thank you, Ms. Chandler. We have no minutes to confirm and no other business, so we can proceed with the agenda items. We have a couple of items that are possible adjournments today, so we'll deal with those items first. And the first items I'd like to call are items number 4 and 5 concerning the property at 5729 Bank Street. And I believe the agent for that matter is Ken Durham. Or Dunham, sorry. Is Mr. Dunham available?
He's not online, Mr. Chair.
Okay, we'll stand that matter down then. Thank you. I believe there's also a possible adjournment request with respect to agenda item number 2 concerning the property at 5198 Piperville. And the applicants there are R. Levine and F. Paris.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect.
Hi.
Start my video.
I don't know. Are we supposed to speak or sorry, it's first time we're doing this?
Oh, no problem, Ms. Paris. I believe that planning had some concerns with the application regarding possible comments from Hydro One. And are asking that an adjournment may be considered. Maybe we'll have Mr. Teeft from the City Planning Department just articulate his concerns in this regard first.
Okay.
All right. So our concerns were just that the property is bordering on the Hydro One transmission corridor, and they may have their own concerns with this. So we recommend that you consult with them before proceeding.
Okay.
I see that in the documents that I've requested before this meeting on Friday, there's an email to the Committee of Adjustment, and it is from Hydro One saying, "Dear committee members, please be advised that Hydro Ottawa Limited has no comments or conditions to this application."
But I guess the question is it Hydro One or Hydro Ottawa?
This one says Hydro Ottawa.
Okay, Mr. Teeft, can you clarify?
Yeah, so we're concerned about Hydro One possibly having concerns with this. They haven't provided any comments.
Okay, but they had been circulated on the application?
I'm not aware if they've been circulated or not.
Okay.
Does that mean we have to do something on our part?
I'll defer to Mr. Teeft if he has any other comment, or sorry, yeah, Mr. Teeft, any other comments?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I can confirm that Hydro One was circulated to as part of our regular technical circulation.
Okay. So they haven't, so they were circulated but haven't expressed any concerns or comments. Does that change planning's position on this, Mr. Teeft?
No, we don't have any concerns.
Just to confirm, the committee did not receive any correspondence from Hydro One.
So in that case, if the members of the committee are agreeable, I think we can probably go ahead and proceed to hear this application today. So Ms. Paris, if it's okay with you, then if you're agreeable, then we will proceed to hear your application today.
Yes, certainly.
And we'll just stand down your application as we'll go through the agenda items in the order that they appear on the agenda. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much. So now we'll proceed to the agenda items. The first item concerns the property at 5857 Birchgrove Road. And I believe the agent on file is Bippin Dillon. Sorry, 2857.
Mr. Chair, if we could just step back to items 4 and 5, the other adjournment request. We got a hold of Ken Dunham and he's agreeable to sine die. He won't be attending today.
Okay. So we'll just move back to agenda items 4 and 5. There has been an adjournment request to clarify the application and provide some additional information that's required. So if the committee members are in favor of adjourning applications 4 and 5 sine die, I would ask for your approval. All those in favor? So we have approved that adjournment, sine die. Thank you very much. So now we'll go back to item 1 on the agenda concerning the property at 2857 Birchgrove Road. And is Bipin Dillon available?
Good morning, Mr. Chair. I'll be replacing Pippin this morning.
Okay, Mr. Bolduc, thank you. And I think the committee is aware of the the purpose of the application and what's being proposed. Do you have anything you'd like to add to what's been filed already with your application?
No, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. I have a brief presentation if required, but just happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Members of the committee have any specific questions they'd like to ask the applicant?
Okay.
Any questions? Not at this time, no. Okay. In that case, then we'll ask the planning department for their comments on this application.
And so for this application, we had some concerns over the development being in the floodplain. And under the official plan and the zoning bylaw, no development is prohibited in the floodplain. But it is subject to regulation by the Conservation Authority. So for this case, we defer to their opinion, and I believe they don't have any concerns. So.
Can we hear from conservation on this matter? No one from conservation?
Mr. Chair, Eric Lemon is on the screen.
Oh, there we go. Mr. Lalonde?
Sorry about that. No, I don't think there was any comments provided for the adjournment request. There's no concerns presented.
Okay, thank you. Do members of the committee have any questions for the conservation partners? Okay, is there anything you'd like to add? Any final comments, Mr. Bolduc?
I'm just noticing the request was originally for a 442 square meter accessory building to the agricultural operation on the property. We'd also asked for a 93 square meter silo. In the planning rationale, I'm noticing it might be absent from the staff report. But the original intent was for both an agricultural building and a grain silo.
Okay. Any comments from city planning on that?
I believe I recall in the planning rationale that the silo was stated to be a future building potentially, not included in this application. Is that correct?
My understanding is there's no immediate plan to build the silo at this time, but as we're proceeding with plans for the development of the agroforestry operation, then we would be seeking permission for that grain silo as well. It's a standard agricultural building, and I feel that it could be, it's a similar rationale to the agricultural building being proposed.
I guess the concern that I have is that it doesn't appear to be part of the requested relief in the application. The notice of hearing indicates that it just refers to the accessory structure of 442 square meters. Okay. So I think what probably would have to happen is if that silo structure was to be constructed in the future, then there may have to be an application with respect to that.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Alrighty. Any other comments or questions from members of the panel? Ms. Chandler?
So in the application form prepared by Foten, they do indicate that their application was for both and provide the information on both. The question would be whether that application form, the city's form, was filled out in the same manner. I would suggest that there's two alternatives for the agent. One would be to proceed with this and then submit another application for the silo in the future, or to ask that this be adjourned and recirculated, adjourned sine die and recirculated by adding the additional silo structure in, which might be more economically efficient. Also, just because there are, well, I know the Conservation Authority has no concerns with respect to agricultural buildings. I would request either as part of a revised application or this one, that it be confirmed that neither the uses in this proposed building or the silo would trigger any of the restricted uses relating to farm fuel storage or grain drying or anything within the official plan. So the agent, I guess, first should decide whether they'd like to stand this down and add the other silo into their circulation in the future, rather than submit a completely different application and associated fees.
So I think we're in your hands, Mr. Bullock. It appears that the notice did not, that was circulated, did not include the reference to the silo, proposed silo structure.
And perhaps committee staff could be asked to check the form, because it may be a discrepancy between the actual application letter from Foten and the filling out of the form that was submitted.
For you, Mr. Chair, I can confirm that the application form we have on file only references an agricultural storage building, but the cover letter does specify both structures. That's why the notice only reflects the one.
I'm looking at a copy of our form. I note that under proposed, we had noted silo. It's possible that that was not included in the floor area calculation in the application form. If I may ask through you, Mr. Chair, could you reiterate the concerns with respect to the fire protection or the storage that Ms. Chandler had noted?
I'll let Ms. Chandler reiterate.
In either case of either proceeding with this application as it stands, or if you wish to defer it to a future meeting and add the silo in, I was just looking for confirmation. There is a list within actually it's in the zoning bylaw that has specific restricted uses that are related to agricultural uses, and they include things such as farm fuel storage, hazardous substances, fertilizers, grain drying facilities. And I only ask that because there's not much of a description of what this silo is sort of the purpose of it. So it's just a confirmation that the proposed uses are appropriate for the floodplain. I'm not concerned about the structures.
I see.
So could you respond, Mr. Bullock?
Yes, we're certainly able to provide provide a response to that as part of a revised cover letter. If this was adjourned sine die, it'd be my understanding that we'd be looking at a recirculation fee. But in order to capture the scope of both the building and the grain silo, we would be agreeable to an adjournment sine die.
Okay, I think that makes the most sense, and then we can deal with everything all at once. And I think it should be fairly quick. I'm assuming we can get this on in the next month or two. So if that doesn't cause undue inconvenience to your clients with respect to their building plans, then I think that makes the most sense.
Yeah, I've just heard from the client, Mr. Chair, that the silo is confirmed to be just for dry storage, but I can provide additional detail through an amended cover letter, and amend our application form to ensure the grain silo is mentioned. Yeah.
Okay. So in that case, then I'll just ask confirmation from the committee that we're prepared to adjourn this matter indefinitely or sine die. All those in favor? So the application is adjourned. Thank you, Mr. Bullock.
Great. Thank you.
So now we're back to agenda item number 2 concerning the property at 5198 Piperville Road. I think we were looking for Mr. Levin and Ms. Paris.
Good morning, Mr. Chair.
Good morning.
How are we today?
Fine, thank you.
Mhm.
I think the committee is pretty clear on what your application.
Mr. Chair, if I can interrupt, we do need the oath read for this item.
My apologies. Thank you for reminding me. Before we begin, we have to confirm that the sign was posted as required by the Planning Act with respect to this application. So are one of you able to affirm or declare that the sign was properly posted on the property?
Yes,
Okay, Ms. Paris, do you solemnly swear or affirm that the notice provided by the committee was posted at the property to which the application applies for the prescribed number of days before the hearing as instructed and was clearly visible and legible during that time?
yes, it was.
Thank you very much. So as I was indicating, the committee has reviewed your application and the information provided. I don't think the committee has any specific questions of you, but is there anything else that you would like to add to your application?
No, I think my cover letter explained it all. I guess one of my question was for Mr. Teef, for in his report, his additional comments, he wrote a permit from the Rideau Valley Conservation Authority would be requested, but I think we fall under the South Nation Conservation Authority and we already have that permit. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Okay. And maybe we'll hear from Mr. Teef then on this application now, and he can respond to your question as well.
Great. So through you, Mr. Chair, that is the correct permit. So you should be okay there. We did have, again, just some minor concerns with proximity to the lands owned by Hydro One. And we do have some concerns with access to the rear of the parcel, just because we noticed that in order to get to the rear of the new structure, if you were to move a vehicle there, you potentially have to go over your septic bed or go through the Hydro One corridor, which wouldn't be permitted. Apart from that, that's about it.
On the side of the house, there's 12 feet. You're able to fit a full huge truck there, and it's not on the bed. It's not. It would be on the line of the hydro line buried. Like my hydro line goes the side of the house, and it's 20 feet there. That my septic bed covers after that, so there's lots of space to go on the side of the house without touching the bed.
So if we follow the tree line, if you look like GPS or whatever, if you follow the tree line, there you're not stepping on top of the septic bed at all, and you can easily access the rear yard.
Okay, thank you. I think that may address your concerns, Mr. Teef.
That's correct.
Okay. Do members of the committee have questions of?
No, Chair.
No, Chair?
None.
Okay, so there's no questions. Is there anything you'd finally like to add, Ms. Paris or Mr. Levine?
No.
No, we're good.
Okay. In that case, the committee will reserve its decision. I know normally in the past, we've made our decisions immediately, but under our new practice where the practice will be to reserve decisions, we'll make our decisions at the end of the day and you'll be notified within 10 days of the written decision. So thank you very much for attending today.
Thank you.
Have a nice day.
The next item concerns the property at 5541 Doyle Road. And I believe the agent on file is Corinne Turansky. Okay, if you could have a, you could, okay, so if you could have a seat and then turn on your microphone. I think you just have to push the button.
Oh, okay, there we go.
So thank you for filing your declaration regarding the sign posting. So if we could just have your full name and address for the record, please.
My name is Corinne Taransky. My address is 1014 Bluefinch Court, Nashua.
Okay. And who's with you today?
Brad Miller.
Okay, thank you. And maybe we can just ask you to give us a very brief presentation. I think that the committee has reviewed the materials and we understand that there is a wish to expand the greenhouse operation.
Yes.
And you require a variance from 20% to 40% for lot coverage.
I've actually amended that to 30%
Okay.
because that's what we're actually looking for at the very moment.
Okay.
A wish list would have been to 40, but I think 30 is more practical at this point in time.
All righty.
And it's, we have purchased a used greenhouse that will have to be moved up here to extend with the greenhouse with the supply chain. The opportunity came to purchase it, and so this is what we're looking to do, and it's approximately 100,000 square feet, probably a little in that area. So that brings it up to the 30,000. And we're looking to expand for storage. Currently, we have a Quonset hut that we store cardboard in, and we need to build a proper cooler room. And we have a small store that's kind of in our loading dock right now. We'd like to have a proper area for that store so that it can be more a proper store for the farm products that we produce. And we're hoping to bring in some local vendors as well to expand it. And then we're looking to expand our cucumbers because currently we have about 12,000 square feet of cucumbers, and it's just barely enough that it just frustrates a lot of our customers. So if we were able to grow 2 or 3 times to build it up to be about 40,000 square feet, and then add leafy greens to the mix, because leafy greens complements the fertilizer use in the drain water. And that's what we're looking to do anyway. Being new to this, it's taken me a little longer than anticipated to get to this point, and we're hoping that we can get things moving so that we have a timeline, being that we clean out our old vines the end of November, sterilize the greenhouse, and then in January, we replant the plants. And the hope is to move zones 1 and 2 to the back to the new section to allow the leafy greens and the cucumbers in the front section, because the back section will be higher, and it allows for better air quality for the tomatoes. The humidity goes higher and there's less issues with mold or not mold, but mildew and heat, because it allows more air around the plants. Okay. And to do that, it's a bit of a dance. It's a juggling act. Yes, please.
We've been working with a company out of Campville called Collard and Associates from an engineering point of view. We have been doing some significant contributions into the facility, the existing facility, towards a lot of energy optimization, including water usage, radiation. We're looking at even doing some solar enhancements on the project or on the property. Today, we're just under 200,000 square foot of greenhouse. We're looking at expanding that to 300,000 square foot. Of that space, the energy optimization for the water isn't just to add 100,000 square foot of growing. It's to allow us to have inventory so everything can be under one roof for a lot of synergies that would come. We're likely looking at 50 to 60,000 square foot of that expanded space for growing. And when we say that, we're looking to diversify the growth of what happens under the greenhouse to a less water intensive product like leafy greens. That's why Corinne has mentioned that. So I know there were some concerns. There's two people that responded to this application, and one was asking about water conservation. We absolutely have some engineering and some consultants on staff. Something we would consider success today would be if we can work towards a conditional pass that we could then go gather all the documentation you deem required from the authorities having jurisdiction and the consultants to bring that forward to you to hopefully keep everybody happy, especially us.
Thank you. Questions from members of the committee?
If I could interrupt, Mr. Chair, through you, if the applicant is suggesting amending their application, committee staff would need the revised site plan showing the reduced gross floor area. Planning may also need time to consider the revised plan.
Yeah.
I'll take actions on all of that. I'm glad to do that fairly quick. And we apologize. This is new to us. This isn't a procedure we do every day. So any guidance you can give us is appreciated.
I can get that to you probably today. I just have to send an email and it's a quick adjustment. It's just a matter of, because we had designed it in phase 1 and phase 2. So he'll just delete phase 2 off of the.
Mr. Chair, you may want to consider a 2-week adjournment to allow time for review.
I'm wondering if we have to recirculate as well. Does committee staff have any direction on that?
Because we're decreasing the extent of the variance, not increasing it, we're making the situation better. We don't have to recirculate, but of course it's up to the panel.
How do members of the panel feel? Would it be appropriate to adjourn this matter for 2 weeks, or do we want to deal with it today? Ms. Chandler?
I think that it would be valuable to have review from city staff and also to give the applicants an opportunity to re-engage with their concerned neighbors about whether that would change their feelings if the size of what was being proposed was reduced. I'm also going to take this opportunity to ask whether consultation with city staff was undertaken prior to submitting this variance.
It was. We were working with a number of people. Adam, I think, was the manager of the planning department, and Jack Graham was instrumental in helping us get this far.
And also regarding to the concerns from the two neighbors, I actually sent it very early this morning, a copy. Hugh Doyle replied to the concerns of Pierre and Leonard properties. I'll quickly read it, and I did email it to.
Yeah, I don't think we have seen it.
Yeah, but he pretty much basically what he says is the normal natural runoff flow from the creek works through these properties, then through the Rideau River culvert under River Road. From there, it works its way via the creek west through Charles Lemieux property to the Rideau River.
Yeah.
In the spring of the year and into the summer, or if rainfall is higher than normal, this runoff in the creek will overflow on the land of Bob Graham to the north before it works its way through the culvert on River Road. The flow downstream to the River Road, Rideau River, is compromised due to slow drainage through the culvert due to improper maintenance of the creek, and or if the Rideau River is too high, leaving the creek below the level of the river. The water is controlled by the Rideau Valley Conservation Authority in the spring to control flooding of the Rideau. The overflow of the land has been happening for years. I grew up on this land and have lived here since 1954, so I know the area well. This information is to supply factual information to help with the variance being applied for by Suntech. Hope this helps.
Thank you. But just going back to going back to adjourning this matter for a couple of weeks. What is your position on that?
We are on a real tight timeline in order to get people involved because Brad, do you want to take over this?
I would have no problem with that, as long as we have clear understanding of what it is you'd like us to come back with. What evidence or data to support the claim and or any of the concerns that have been raised.
Mr. Otto?
I guess I don't have too many more questions, if any, but I would advise you to take an extra 2 weeks or 3 weeks to talk to planning and get these things organized and make sure that it's 30% coverage that you want, not 40. Just to get all those details, and also contact your conservation authority in regards to the flow of the water through this creek that Mr. Doyle seems to be concerned with. And hopefully we can deal with this quickly and get you on the road to doing what you want to do.
There was a
just a moment. Member Henderson? What's your position with respect to putting the matter over?
Agreed.
Agreed? Okay.
Mr. Chair, if I can interrupt, the next two hearing dates are Tuesday, June 20th or July 4th. And further from input from city planning staff to how long it may take to review the plans.
Comments from staff on this?
Thank you, Chair. I think it would be certainly doable to review it if it comes back in 2 weeks, if the materials are submitted quickly enough.
Okay. And I just had one more question from the applicant. Have you seen the planning report that was provided with respect to this application that was prepared by Mr. Graham?
Yes, I have.
Okay, well, that's fine. So his concerns may be lesser now that the variance requested is smaller. So
Yeah, I had emailed, we had emailed each other yesterday and I discussed it with him. He said most certainly the.
Okay, so I think the members of the committee are in agreement. Then we'll put this matter over to the meeting of June the 20th. And that'll give you a bit of an opportunity to collect a little more information and have a further discussion with city planning. Okay, so the matter is adjourned till June the 20th. All those in favor? Thank you very much. So items 4 and 5 have been adjourned. So we're on to our last agenda item, number 6, which concerns the property at 2765 Palladium Drive. And I believe the agent on file is Serene Shahzadeh. I hope I've pronounced that correctly.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee.
Good morning.
I do have a short presentation prepared if you would like to hear that. Otherwise, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
We have reviewed, I don't think the committee needs to hear a formal presentation. We've reviewed the application and your submissions. I guess I would just ask if you have other comments that you'd like to add.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we would like to ask that conditions 1 and 3 be removed. Condition 1 asks about proving that private approach conforms with the private approach bylaw, but that would be dealt with at site plan. And similarly with condition number 3 regarding the noise report, that would also be dealt with at site plan, and property has also been part of a previous subdivision application, which was likely covered under their noise report.
Okay. And in addition to those requested conditions, you're aware that the committee would have the normal standard conditions regarding a registered reference plan and electronic registration and preparation documents. Those would be standard conditions as well.
It's fair.
Okay. Questions from members of the panel?
Only that I'm not sure I heard that correctly. A noise study was prepared as part of the plan of subdivision, or it was likely prepared as part of a plan of subdivision?
It was likely prepared as plan of subdivision. We reached out to city staff to try to confirm, but it was a short turnaround, so we couldn't get that confirmation. But noise studies would likely be required as future site plan applications for the properties.
Thank you. Maybe we'll hear from Mr. Teef now from city planning. So I guess the applicant's position essentially is that conditions 1 and 3 would be covered through the site plan approval process. Do you have a comment on that, Mr. Teef, and any other comments?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So planning had requested these conditions be applied to ensure that any development that occurs after this that could proceed without site plan control would have these conditions captured. So that's our reasoning for having those in there.
Okay. So is there a response from the applicant on that? So I guess Mr. Teef is saying essentially that there may be development on these properties without going through the site plan approval process. I'm assuming it would be in place for the power sports dealership, but maybe not for the other parcel.
Mr. Chair, if I could just step in for rebuttal. My name's Eric Bays. I'm a senior planner with Stantec, and I'm working with Ms. Shahzadeh on this file here. So we took a look at the conditions yesterday when they arrived about at kind of end of business day, and we were sort of scrambling to take a look at a few of them. I think the noise study is the main point of concern, not necessarily the condition at large, but what some of the implications are. So we were very confident that this application, when it went through a plan of subdivision back in 2018, there was a noise report that was prepared with that. We haven't been able to grab a copy of that, but we're quite confident that not only was there a noise study prepared, but it was also any applicable clauses would have already been registered on title for this property. The next time that development occurs on the site will end up being at a site plan stage. I understand Mr. Teef's concern about properties that are a situation where there might not be site plan approval. I think that's very improbable, though I do recognize that there are some very limited circumstances. And at that site plan stage, because we're in proximity to an arterial road and to a collector road, it would end up triggering a noise impact assessment. But at that time, we'll actually know what are the proposed uses. Are they sensitive land uses? There are a few sensitive land uses like residential and daycares, for example, that are permitted under the GM zone. But I guess to the committee, I just posit that we know that we have a noise study right now that put recommendations on title. And we know that if there's going to be a sensitive land use on the property in the future, it's either going to be covered by those conditions that were already put on title, or it's going to prompt another noise study. So what is it fundamentally about creating two parcels here that raises a noise concern that isn't sufficiently addressed by a future application or a former application? It just from the applicant's perspective, the requirement to do the study right now is sort of doing the same thing over again. That's going to have to be done again anyway, and whatever recommendations come out of it are quite limited. So I'm not sure. Perhaps the option, because we did mention there, we don't have an actual copy of the former noise study in hand. If the committee is concerned about full removal of the condition, would you consider some type of additional nuance that mentions the ability to ensure that the previous noise studies recommendations were implemented on these properties, or some, I'm not quite sure what the best way forward might be with this, but we are apprehensive about the kind of redundancy or repeating that might be happening if we end up following the condition as is.
Maybe we'll ask for a response from city planning.
I think we would just want to have a copy of that study just to guarantee, I believe.
That's through you, Mr. Chair. That seems reasonable to us as well. If there isn't a study, then obviously there's some rationale for putting something forward right now. If there's some way to make that clear in either the conditions or recognizing that we have minutes of us discussing this here, that would be helpful.
Thank you. Questions, members of the committee? No questions? Ms. Chandler?
I would be comfortable with amending condition 3 to a further or confirmation that a noise study was undertaken as part of the subdivision as part of the subdivision application and registration.
Is that acceptable to your client, Mr. Bays?
Ms. Shahzadeh, does that make sense to you as well?
Yes, it does. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Then.
And city planning has indicated that they're fine with that. So that condition number 3 will be amended to provide that it will not be required. A new noise attenuation study will not be required if there is an existing one that was completed as part of the existing plan of subdivision and notice was registered on title. Alrighty, if there are no other questions, then we'll reserve our decision on this matter, but we will make a decision today and you'll be notified in writing of our decision within 10 days from the date of the hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. I believe that concludes our business for today. Thank you everyone for attending. And we'll see everyone at our next hearing on June the 20th. Thank you very much.